everybody, and welcome to today's video. We're going to talk about salvaged food. I'm going to go into great detail about salvaged food, but first I'm going to show you what I got this week that I got for free, and it was salvaged. I'm going to explain to you a little bit more about where this food came from and what are we dehydrating today. This is watercress. Now, watercress is a type of leaf, has a peppery flavor, and when you dehydrate it, it makes amazing seasoning, and it's very high in nutrients for you all. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to dehydrate this. I also have some tomatoes that I need to work on. We do have some onions. Now these were salvaged onions too, which they look really good yet, but we have to use them up. So right now what we're going to do is I am going to go ahead and I'm going to wash all of this watercress. I have 3 bags of it. So we have 3 bags of it. And then I also am going to dehydrate some celery. So let me go ahead and wash this, put it on the trays, and then we'll go and work on the next salvaged produce. High-end restaurants are what usually is the ones that eat a lot of this watercress. It's really good for you. It's a very old-fashioned green, but a lot of just everyday people don't know much about it. And so this was one thing that was going to be thrown in the landfill because they had so much of it. And I'm going to explain a little bit more about all of this. This is so much fun for me. So the first thing we're going to do is dehydrate a whole trays. The whole thing is going to be full of watercress. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and cut the tops of these onions. And I'm going to talk a little bit to you about salvaged food and all of the different things you're going to see on my channel, which you've been seeing now for many years. But we're going to talk about how to preserve salvaged food. Now, I know not everybody can get salvaged food, but let's talk about it first. So salvaged food can be different ways of getting it. One could be dumpster diving. That is salvaged food. The food was in the dumpster. There are food banks. You know, that is another thing. A lot of people go to food banks and they'll get a box of food, and a lot of times it's going to be really unusual food, which is food that was mostly good but salvageable. So the word salvage can be many different interpretations. But in other words, in food banks, a lot of times companies give food banks food that is still salvageable, but it's not the quality for the main grocery store. And so a lot of times people will get food boxes from the food pantry, and they'll have food that they don't know what to do with. I don't go to a food pantry. I have worked at one, and I see a lot of food being thrown away. But this here is another source of where you can get free food salvageable yet, and that is produce auctions. I live in a community where we have a lot of produce auctions. And this actually came, and the watercress came from produce auctions. What happens is in the morning they have an auction. Some are on Tuesdays and then some are on Fridays. And there's many auctions all throughout the United States, and you can go to them, and then when the auction is over, so you want to wait to right about when the end of the auction is over, there are piles and piles and piles of food that nobody auctioned off. In other words, it didn't sell. And then you can either get it for like $1 for cases of things, or you can get it for free. So that is one way you can get salvaged food, is go to these produce auctions and wait to the very end. You don't know what you're getting. What they often do is they have little bits of this and that, and then they put it all on a skid, and then they have a free sign, and you can come and take it for free. Now, some produce auctions, you need to have a license. So in other words, you need to be a commercial grower. But most of them, and I would say most of them, just anybody can go in there and you can pick up the food for free or for cheap at the very end. That means you wait to the very end. But you want to be there in time that you can get some food, because they don't wait around for people to take the food for free. They throw it away really quickly. So you're going to see from different weeks, different things that I can pick up. 99% of it is organic food, because 99% of the growers are organic, because these are small farmers. They don't take the food back, they don't want the food, and then the food gets thrown away. if nobody takes it. And most times nobody takes it because the people that come to the auctions, they want nice food for their produce stands. So they will look for food that has no blemishes for their produce stands or for their stores. There's very little amount of people that come for personal use, but they are glad to give the food away because they're just going to throw it away anyhow. All right, so now we're going to work on these tomatoes. I have 2 small flats of tomatoes, and I need to go through each and every one of them, and the ones that are good, we're going to eat these for fresh. Now, the one thing nice about this is, like I said, is it's mostly all organic. But now we have a bunch of tomatoes that have a spot on them, and immediately we need to do something with them because they will rot really quickly. So what I'm doing is I'm going through all of these tomatoes, and any of them that has a spot, I'm going to go ahead and cut them up. Now sometimes I dehydrate them, but today I am not going to do that. We're going to freeze them. So these we're going to eat fresh. And you always want to have them blossom side down. So we're going to go ahead and I'm going to go through the other flat and see what we have to work on there. So when you get salvaged food for free like this, you can't go through it. In other words, you can't sit there at the auction and go through it and pick out what you want and what you don't. You have to take everything. So in other words, you have to take a whole box of it. So one of the biggest disrespectful things is when people go through it and they pick around at stuff. Basically, I pick up the whole box, and then whatever I can't use, I have to discard of it. So what I'm doing now is I'm going to cut up these tomatoes, the good parts, and cut out the bad parts. And then I am going to put them in a marinade, and then I am going to actually freeze these. So it's going to take me a little while to go through. It's about 9 of them. So I'm just going to go ahead and chop them up. Just to make sure, in case there would be any moisture, to help absorb that. We're going to put a lid on here. And now it's done. So there you go. This will give enough for a whole year. I'll just have to shake this a couple times here to get it all distributed here like that. And that's what it looks like. Thanks again for watching. Hey, if you watched the video this long, why don't you give me a thumbs up? That's going to really help me in creating a goal of mine that I've had now for 7 years.